Ajay, at Mithril, you're in a really difficult business when you think about investing in technology for the long term, but you've consistently over the years talked about investing for the purposes of building to last, and durability is a theme constantly you repeat on. What do you mean by that?
When you look at how investing in venture works, it is very much a power law dynamic. So you'll typically have a single company that ends up being as valuable as all the other companies in the sector put together. So what that lends itself to is a mentality as an investor you have to develop that's two things. One, you have to presume that every weird idea that shows up is in fact potentially true. So you have to be constructive. You cannot become cynical. At the same time, you have to be very skeptical. So you have to be constructive, and you have to test like crazy to make sure that what they're claiming is possible or is plausible is in fact possible. The summary is you end up becoming a sniper. It's about rifle shots, individual high conviction bets. And when you find companies and founders, especially teams, that you can work alongside, then you compound into that dynamic and you end up compounding into their success. And if they've chosen the right market and you've done your homework and the partnership works, you end up owning all the value in the targeted industry. And that is a very rewarding dynamic.
In the medical device field, you're a contrarian investor. You believed in it when other VCs were exiting it. What was the thought process?
I don't believe in collective punishment. And so, there are individual things that are really good or really bad about different industries and different companies. You have to evaluate these things for the individual facts. And so venture goes through these cycles where sectors, people fall in and out of love with sectors. And medical devices is one of those sectors where the history is a history of very tough businesses to build, very tough to exit. That being said, what's interesting is precisely because of that dynamic, I think some of the technologies that we take for granted on the other side of, say, Route 101 in Silicon Valley, where Google lives or Facebook lives, things like advanced robotics, things like machine learning, or the ability to use large data sets to optimize certain outcomes and do human-machine symbiosis. Those are things that are not assumed to be relevant to the medical device industry, which is all about FDA and reimbursement and getting into the clinical work stream. It turns out it is very relevant. And if you're able to see that translational value and apply it to building a platform technology company where you pack in using technology stack that would be familiar to Amazon more than it would be to, say, Johnson & Johnson, capabilities that have clinical value, that have therapeutic value into a platform technology or platform product, that lends itself to the kind of economics and returns that are normally associated with Silicon Valley software companies, and it's very rewarding to invest in them.
You've obviously had a lot of success since 2012. Fund 1, Fund 2, both performing extremely well. When you think forward, though, about what the business model needs to evolve to be successful and maintain that competitive advantage you have, how do you think about that?
In many ways, we want to be classic venture capitalists. So when it comes to investing in new capabilities for which there are no prior models, that's how we want to operate. We want to operate like a very, very capable kind of small shop with independent thinking and the ability to write high conviction checks, right? Now, the other side of that equation is we are seeing a world that is fairly pregnant with great technology, but not as much adoption of those technologies as is possible. These technologies allow people to do some really fantastic things, but people are afraid to take advantage of them. So we're seeing increasingly a spread between what I call functionally best and what feels safe, right? And that spread is something that we would like to attack eventually as a platform. One way to attack it is to be very functional about evaluating these technologies and showing that they're safe and capable at scale, and then underwriting some of the risk of adoption, helping users consume new technology with assurance rather than just helping creators come up with new capabilities, which is what we do today. And I think the combination of the two, and we're thinking about various ways, either financial products or testing mechanisms or quality certification mechanisms that can help catalyze this market formation dynamic. And I think capability formation and market formation coming together, that is the completion of the innovation paradigm.